Welcome to another episode of the Platform Podcast. Platform aims to share the stories of remarkable people living remarkable lives. Today we're thrilled to host Natalia Baryshnikova, a leading voice in the product management world and a recognized innovation and collaboration leader. Natalia, this is your platform. What is your story?
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's a joy to be on the platform, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I think the way I choose to use the platform is to share a little bit more about my product management story and my career story. I feel like it's one of those areas where you don't have enough voices because product management is not an area that people study in college for. And therefore, everybody has their own little way and their own kind of parts of the journey of how they got into product management. And so what I hear often from young and aspiring product managers is that they want to hear more voices, just to hear more different stories so that they can pattern match. And you never know who you're going to resonate with. So I'll share my own story. I started as a product manager in a consumer tech world. So my first product management roles were actually in a consumer tech startup world. I worked on products in online travel space, such as airline booking and ticketing products, e-commerce, as well as hotels and hospitality tech, which was very interesting because eventually I switched to enterprise tech. And there I've worked on things ranging from people technology to collaboration space, such as Confluence at Atlassian. And now I'm very happy to work on enterprise agility at Atlassian, which is a problem space where you help organizations connect their strategy to execution and essentially operationalize their strategy and help strategic leaders make better decisions. But I did not go to college for product management, and my journey of professional world actually started. I think my first ever paying job was being a street artist and painting during the weekdays when I was in college, and then on weekends selling my art on the street. It interestingly paid for my bills, and while my art was not necessarily making enough money, a lot of people liked it enough to ask me for commissions. And the most interesting commissions that I used to do quite consistently was painting walls for private rave parties because people were interested in throwing parties, and so they wanted decoration that's unique to those parties. And so I think that I made the best money on that. I did quite a few different art pieces for, again, people as commissions. But that taught me a lesson that's very important in product management. It's about using your work as a distribution channel to market. And so sometimes things that you have to do as a business in order to get your customers is investing into an activity that doesn't necessarily immediately bring you a lot of dollars, but however, it gets you to work and to customers that ultimately end up bringing you a lot of revenue. So that was my little experience there. And then after college, my first employer was actually a law firm. So again, this is very, very distant from technology product management. But as a part of my experience working at a law firm, I've learned attention to detail. So art taught me a lot of things. And being an art entrepreneur of sorts also taught me a lot of things. But being in big law taught me attention to detail because if you've ever worked with lawyers or if you are a lawyer, you know that no one has the same level of attention to detail, which I found fascinating, but also very relevant to my product management career. The reason I'm saying all of this is I feel like sometimes people question themselves and whether they can go into product management because of their different career journeys beforehand. And I think that based on my own story and people that I have seen, it's never the same. It's always fascinating, quirky, and a little bit different for everybody. So if that's something that you're thinking about, then don't hesitate. Any journey can lead to product management. So in my case, I eventually did my grad school in the United States. And so I got into technology a little more, and that ultimately led me into the product management career where I'm right now. What's different about where I'm right now is that I have shifted a little bit from pure product management into more of a strategy and business side. So I'm a general manager right now, and I run one of Atlassian's business units called Enterprise Agility, which is fascinating because I not just think about product and strategy and users and technology and all of those wonderful things, but I also ironically go back to my olden days of trying to sell my own pictures on a street. And I have to think about marketing, I have to think about distribution channels, I have to think about profit and loss and revenues and partnerships and all those different things that you have to think through if you run a business. And I really like this. I think that it's a progressive growth of scope and challenges that I found very interesting. So that kind of product manager to general manager journey is something that I encourage a lot of PM leaders to explore potentially as well.
Thank you, Natalia. People will hear your story and see you lead in the world of product management. What is your advice to those that are inspired by your story and are inspired to following your path? Like, where and how did they get started?
I think my biggest advice is establish early on whether this is for you or not, because I find that product management, being one of those nebulous professions, attracts a lot of people, which is great because I think, like I said, every journey and every beginning of the story can potentially lead you into product management and be a great product manager. But I also think that because it's such a popular profession and we have definitely helped the number of product managers grow significantly lately, a lot of folks just do it out of FOMO, out of the fear of missing out. And my recommendation would be to not be influenced by what the crowd thinks you need to be, but rather, explore things for yourself and try to understand whether this is the right thing for you. And then have trust in yourself. I know it's easier said than done, but again, this is one of the roles where you don't get any kind of college credits to become a product manager, and therefore you have to rely a little bit more on your own self-confidence and determination and hard work to become good at. So the best thing you can really do for yourself and for your future product is to find out if it's really for you. And if it is, just go for it and keep at it. It may take a little while, but this journey is possible for anyone.
You talk about own self-confidence and determination.
Yeah.
I've seen you talk about grit previously. Tell us more about grit.
Grit is one of those underappreciated qualities that I think a lot of professions need. And ironically, it's something that I also started building in my more kind of art entrepreneurial days. But you think that you don't necessarily have to have grit for many things, and yet it always shows up in so many ways in different professions. And as a product manager, for example, if you're building something new, there is always this period of time where you're the only one who can see that future, you can see that vision, and you're the only one who fully believes in it. Because people around you will always doubt you, and rightfully so. You don't want to be in a world where it's a bubble and nobody questions you, nobody asks the hard questions. But at the same time, you need to believe. You need to have that confidence, and you need to have that determination, aka grit, that things are going to work out. And your team will really be looking up to you to have that grit and to have that determination and perseverance. And so that's definitely a skill set that I think is very valuable, primarily if you're trying to innovate and build something new that doesn't exist. Because naturally, as humans, we always question new things, and we always not necessarily reject new ways of thinking, but naturally we're a little bit resistant to change. And so if you're trying to change things as a product manager or any other leader, you will need some grit.
Sticking on grit, how do you inspire people to care?
How
do you inspire people to care?
How do I inspire people to care? I think that we as humans are very social, and what I find time and time again, if you yourself show very vividly how much you care, and if you have bright eyes and people see that you're inspired and authentically inspired when you're talking about something and consistently do things about something, they will start caring too. Not everybody, but a good chunk will. And so I think the best way to get somebody to care is to deeply care yourself and be very vocal about it, show that not just in big things and your words, but in your actions consistently over time, and people will join the movement. I always think about this as building a movement of any kind. I know that this will sound cultish, but again, if you have that vision, it usually starts with nothing. You have that vision, and then you have to make it come true. And in order to do this, you have to bring your team along. You have to get people to care. So you have to bring nothing into something with the help of others. Therefore, the best way to do this is to make them believe as much as you do into the outcomes and the vision that you're trying to achieve. And yeah, just showing up every day and authentically being inspired by it and just continuously showing it despite the feedback, or not the feedback, the setbacks that you may experience.
The authentic inspiration. What personal frameworks do you have?
Authentic inspiration. Oof, that's a good question. I don't really have frameworks for inspiration. I personally am inspired by people of artistic inclination, perhaps, and I always try to find new ways and new leaders in various creative spaces that inspire me in some shape or form. I'll give you a few examples. For example, I'm really one of my favorite filmmakers is David Lynch, who is famous for creating universes and stories that are almost dreamlike in that they don't fully have the logic, and so you can't quite explain what's going on. But it creates that weird and fascinating space that allows people to dream a little bit and then make that dream kind of indistinguishable from reality. I also like that's fascinating because as somebody who's genuinely very rational and logical, I always find those limitations of logic and rationality. And I think it's very interesting to see how do you create that belief, create that care that you were talking about in others where logic and rationality just no longer cut it. So how do you create a dream out of a place of logic and rationality? And so that's something that inspires me a lot. I don't know if it's a framework, but I'm very inspired by another example, Bobbi Brown, the makeup artist. So she is now in her 60s, I believe, and she's starting her line, like a completely new business. And she keeps reinventing herself because she has made such a huge name as a makeup artist. And so she has a very successful business of her own products. And yet at some point, she's like, you know what? I'm not going to rest on laurels. I'm going to completely rethink this thing and start something new. And I find that very inspirational because I believe that true artists and true craftsmen or craftswomen, you just cannot stop. You always want to get better, and seeing different ways of how someone reinvents themselves constantly and just keeps that grit and perseverance showing up in those different ways. It's very, very inspiring to me. So yeah, I don't think it's a framework, but I think maybe one advice that I have for myself and for others here is just to keep exploring and find the patterns, find those people that inspire you. Because sometimes that inspiration will come from things around you, but oftentimes it comes from people. So the more interesting people and examples that you can find for yourself, the more likely you will find something that helps you and is applicable to your own unique story.
So keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
And the inspiration comes from people. Street artist, law firm, technical product management. We'll go on to where next shortly. But what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced, and how would you advise others that if they face the same, how could they overcome them sooner?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if we think about product management or any other role really on a very high abstraction level, my advice to my PMs is to always think on the next level of abstraction compared to what is currently required. It may sound a little bit highbrow, so I'll explain. For example, if you're a product manager who's working on a feature, in order to be best at what you do, you need to understand the set of capabilities around this feature. Because if you don't, you will be making solutions and bringing solutions into life that are locally optimized and not optimized for the whole thing. If you are a product manager who owns a capability within a product, you need to understand that product. Because without it, you will be making solutions that are not optimal. So what that means in my world right now, if I use the same recipe for myself, is that as somebody who runs, a business unit at Atlassian, the enterprise agility business, I need to be thinking about Atlassian business overall, because I don't think I'm going to be good and efficient at what I do unless and until I understand completely what this company is doing, whether it's where it's going, whether it's my business or not. In fact, other areas of our work at Atlassian and where we're going in our markets is something that I'm constantly learning about and exploring, because I simply do not believe that I can be good at what I do without understanding that next level of the big picture. And therefore, my biggest challenge is kind of like growing constantly and acquiring that next level. I think it's a good problem to have, because fundamentally, I believe that that's the way to grow your career, your journey, to build your platform, no pun intended. But that is, I would say, always challenging for good reasons, and that's something that I'm. That's a journey that I'm on right now.
So that always growing, always learning, always evolving. If someone is working internally and they want to move into product management, because as you said, it can be quite nebulous.
Right. Yeah.
How do they position themselves for that next step, that move into it?
Yeah. I think the hardest thing to convince people about is that you can create value on that next level or in that next role where you're trying to get to. Because again, humans are resistant to change, but also doubtful sometimes. So oftentimes we do give others credit for potential before they have realized, any of that potential. But other times you just have to, Americans say, fake it till you make it. But it's really about showing that value before you actually realize it. And I think the best way to think about this is find out how, based on where you are today, you can leverage the skills, the experiences that you have right now, and prove before you get the job or get that next role or get a different scope that you actually have the skill set and you get what it takes to succeed. Therefore, my recommendation is to, again, keep exploring things that are relevant to that space and then map them to experiences that you have, to skills that you bring to the table, and to even hypothetical explorations of what you think might be needed in that new space that you're trying to get into, and then communicate this. Because the other thing about exploring your potential and realizing your potential is that a lot of people want things, but not a lot of people do things. So being agentic and showing that agency in ways that is meaningful and addresses the key needs of that new area is probably the best thing you can do. You'll be shocked to learn how few people actually do that. And I think that it's a very good move in general.
I was also I was going to go down the route of talking about getting shit done, which you're renowned for.
Yeah.
And you even put it on a cover letter at one point.
Oh yeah, that's true. Getting shit done. I think that, using faulty language is one way to stand out sometimes. But I think specifically with applying to jobs and getting yourself noticed, one of the things everybody runs into is how to stand out. And this was a little bit of a hack of standing out, because I figured that not a lot of people will be using the word shit in their job applications. And I just felt like, saying that I get shit done was the right way to show my truthful value, but also show my personality a little bit. And I thought that it's going to be either that people hate it and just see that word and not even go beyond that, or somebody will truly understand this, relate to it, and will maybe have a little laugh reading it. I guess the lesson behind this is when you're trying to differentiate, it's always challenging, but so showing that authenticity a little bit and that authentic value, which perhaps can be done in many different ways. But that's where I was going at with my usage of faulty language. Standing out and kind of being different a little bit. Because in product management in particular, with so many folks trying to get in it, or so many folks trying to kind of get roles, standing out is hard. And sometimes you just need to be different. You don't even need to be better. You just need to be different. And so I would encourage people to think about what is that for them? How can they be different and show this to the world?
Where does Natalia go next?
Yeah, it's a great question. My favorite quote is on that front is by David Bowie. So I will answer in David Bowie's words. He said, "I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise it won't be boring." And I think that's just true. I have so much more to do in enterprise agility and in this market. And as I keep exploring what's next, I truly try to live up to my passion and work on problems that I care about. So I will keep. I definitely have a lot more time and energy and space to explore right now, where I am today. But there are so many fascinating problems in the world that need to be solved or need to be solved better, that I'm fairly certain that I will not run out of inspiring people and inspiring problems to solve. So that's what's next.
Natalia Baryshnikova, this has been your platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me the platform. Appreciate it.